David Barry from Green Borders Online Magazine. Our special guest today is Patricia Foster.
Good morning, David.
Hi. Patricia, you are a very multi-talented person.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to be focusing on a number of your skills and talents this morning. I understand you are a writer and a poet.
I am, yes. I write mainly sort of narrative poetry, and I have been writing and performing publicly since about 2001. And it's something I thoroughly enjoy doing.
Can you tell me about your early interest with regard to poetry?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically, I can recall being at school, and I remember reading poems by a Jamaican-born poet, Louise Bennett, and Spike Milligan as well. And we'd have turns to recite them in the class, and sometimes we were also asked to recite them in a particular accent as well, which was great. I also recall watching programs on TV when Channel 4 first came out. I think I'm showing my age a bit. And there were a few sort of cultural programs based around poetry, and I remember seeing Craig Charles, who was performing. People may sort of know him as being in Coronation Street, but he did a lot of poetry in his early days. And there's also one poet that really stood out for me, and that was Jean Binta Breeze. And I'd see her reading her poems and reciting them effortlessly, and I thought, one day I would really, really like to do what she's doing. And so I dabbled in writing over the years, but I just sort of tucked it away in a drawer and left it there. Didn't actually do anything with it until the late 90s, when I sort of started attending poetry events myself. And then I got talking with a fellow friend, poet friend of mine, and I said, I love poetry, and I do like the idea of performing.
Do you perform on stage?
Sorry?
Do you perform on stage?
I do, yes.
Can you tell Green Borders Online a magazine about that?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned Jean Binta Breeze, a poet who inspired me when I was a lot younger, and I actually got the opportunity to work with her. I hosted a show for Apples and Snakes, who are a well-known poetry agency, and they promote artists, and I'm actually one of their profiled artists as well. And I was asked to host a show which included Jean Binta Breeze, a wonderful writer called Gemma Weeks, and a fabulous writer, Malika Booker, who's also a mentor of mine and a very good friend. So that was great. But my poetry journey started out, I suppose, within a very supportive writing community, which is called Malika's Kitchen. And again, this was put together by Malika Booker, alongside Roger Robinson, who's another amazing writer and mentor and friend of mine, and Jacob Samler Rose, again another great writer and a good friend of mine.
Can Green Borders Online Magazine viewers and readers hear your poetry? Is it available?
There are. You'll find that there are some links on YouTube, and I actually discovered one the other day. I didn't realise it was online. But if you Google my name on YouTube, and you'll see the links. I also have performed in Norway and Amsterdam, Rotterdam as well, and as well as in London for Apples and Snakes. And
who are your inspirations, Patricia?
Well, I mentioned Jean Binta Breeze. Another poet from the sort of same era as Jean Binta Breeze is Linton Kwesi Johnson, who's he's known as a dub poet, so again hails from Jamaica, and also somebody I listened to throughout my childhood.
And you write your own poetry as well?
I do. Yes, I write my own poetry.
Do you have any favourite subjects, if that's the right question to ask?
I think a lot of the poems that I write are based on relationships, so they could be family relationships, personal romantic relationships, but I also sort of intergenerational relationships between maybe a grandmother and a child, and I have a few poems based on that. One poem that I've written is actually based on a real journey that I made to see my grandfather, and the actual story and the way things unfolded was quite remarkable.
How can schools today encourage children to enjoy poetry?
Well, a lot of poets, established poets, they work in education. That's something that I do as well. And you basically go into a school and structure a workshop. It could be for a day or half a day, based around literature. It could also tie in with other subject areas as well. So maybe PHSE, but I've run workshops during like History Month and throughout the year as well. Another thing that I have done is I've run workshops using poetry as a base and using literature as a base, and getting young people to create their own lyrics and also to create their own music and fuse the two together. So there are many
music
ways.
and poetry together?
Yeah. So
wow.
it's a sort of songwriting workshop, but I also kind of highlight the fact that a lot of lyrics are based on the forms that you'll find in poetry, and also rap music is highly tied to poetry as well. So and when young people actually make this connection, you know, they are infused and they are quite excited.
So if any schools see this video clip, Patricia,
yes.
are they able to contact you?
Absolutely,
and,
yeah. Yes, I have a LinkedIn page, and I'm sure that that the details will be provided later on. And yes, they can definitely call me. I mean, as well as running sort of literature-based workshops, I also do some multimedia workshops. Again, using film as a medium. So getting young people to create their own sort of narrative and produce their own film. But I also let them kind of take charge of that.
You seem to be the most amazing inspirational role model to our youngsters, teenagers today, Patricia.
That is such a lovely thing to say. Thank you. I mean, where I was working...
Do you feel you have a responsibility as a role model, Patricia?
I do. I mean, whenever, you know, just from a young age, I was always sort of... I've worked with young people for over 20 years. And even when my mum used to babysit young people and I would help out, so I felt a sense of responsibility then, and that's always remained with me, and even with my family as well. So I think that, you know, I'm very mindful of what I say, because I know young people are going to be watching me, and but they will also they want role models. They like having guidance in life, and if I have the ability to do that, then that's part of my job done. So I can give you an example where I used to work. I worked for 13 years working with young people and multimedia, and again making films and all sorts of wonderful, amazing things. And I worked with a lot of them after school. That was mainly when these children were in primary school. A lot of them now are in their early 20s. They've been to university and they still keep in contact with me on Facebook.
So nice. That's so nice.
And I've actually worked on some projects with some of them as well.
Is that one of your vocations, do you think, working with young children?
That is definitely one of my vocations. It's something I'm totally passionate about, and I've written that in my sort of online profiles. I like the idea of giving back. I like the idea of being a vessel, if you like, to inspire, to guide people, young people in particular. I mean, just this morning I got an email from one of my former students She just emailed me to say hello, and she haven't spoken for a while. And it's things like that that actually make me think that what I'm doing is worthwhile. Just highly passionate about it.
What message do you think school children, youngsters need today in order to be inspired and motivated to continue with their learning and to have a passion about learning poetry?
I would say that that every person is unique in themselves. They also have a unique gift to share with others, and I think it's allowing them to find that and identify that and tap into that. And if there are adults out there, you know, as well as myself, who can actually help them to find that gift within themselves, then again, that's something, you know, worthwhile doing.
Are you able to? I know we haven't planned this, Patricia.
I know what you're going to say.
Are you able to give Green Borders Online magazine maybe 30 seconds of poetry?
I think I could do that.
Great stuff. Lovely, lovely.
I'll have to think of a piece.
Okay.
There's a piece that's come to mind, which is a poem that's come to mind, which is about. It's about how children can be a bit spiteful in some ways, but I think, it's a form, you know, we all know about bullying, and if young people can actually realise that everyone is unique and beautiful in themselves, then there's no need to have a go at someone else. So this is a poem called Lips. My lips seem to amuse Esther. She forces a shrill, teeny sound through hers, which then bursts into a big, rough snort. Sounds like a horse. She says my lips are chalky and dry, big and rubber. She laps up last from the others like a drunkard needing a drink. Maybe my lips are big, as she says. It doesn't make it any easier for me to open them up or answer her back, though. She always chews gum, and I always know when she's going to say something nasty to me. Her lips mash up and down, hard, parting and closing like a bored camel. Then she's looking at me, laughing to herself all the while. By now, the rest of the class are flicking their fingers and swaying and beating their tabletops to the rhythm of her horse sounds. She's firing out these words with the crack and slap of the sour gum in her gob. I remember last summer, Granny. I remember being with Granny last summer. She'd always tell me to take time and talk good with my lips. Perhaps that's why I can't say anything about Esther now.
Very nice, Patricia. I think that's a great conclusion to the Patricia Foster interview. You're the most amazing person, Patricia.
Thank you
been
so much,
so enjoyable meeting you and interviewing you. And anybody that wants to know about Patricia Foster, please Google her name. And there's not only is Patricia involved in writing and poetry, there's so much more to her, as you can see from this interview. God bless Patricia.
Thank you very much.
David Barry, Green Borders Online magazine, the Patricia Foster interview.